Stop for 60 seconds, because this was scheduled to reach you today, and I need to say it while it can still be said plainly. There is a secret that has been kept for generations, and as of now, it cannot be hidden from you anymore. Chosen one, this is not happening someday. It is happening now, in your lifetime, in the middle of your ordinary week, and before this hour ends, you are going to know what it is, why it was kept, and why you, of all people, were never supposed to find out. You have felt this thing your entire life without a name for it. The sense that something in the world is quietly wrong, tilted, staged. The feeling of being watched over and blocked at the same time, as if two hands were on your life, one guarding you and one holding you down. People called you too sensitive, too intense, too much. Every one of them was wrong, and in the next few minutes you will find out exactly how wrong, because here is the first crack in the seal. The secret was never hidden from everyone equally. It was hidden from people like you, specifically, on purpose, because of what waking you up would cost the ones who built the hiding. There are two layers to what I am about to show you, and the second layer is about you personally. I will not apologize for how personal it gets. Let me prove I know who I am talking to. You write honest replies and delete them before sending, under posts, in group chats, in messages to family. You compose the true sentence, look at it, sitting there in the box, and erase it, because you learned a long time ago what happens when you say what you actually see. Nobody taught you to do that in a classroom, chosen one. That habit is a scar, and by the end of this message, you will know what made it. Here is my covenant for the next hour, in 3 parts. You will understand the machinery of the secret, the real one, with its dates and its fingerprints, not fog and speculation. You will feel 30 years of self-doubt convert into something else entirely, because the thing you were mocked for is about to be identified as equipment. And you will walk away knowing what to do now that the seal is lifting, because seeing is not the end of this. Stewarding is understand, feel, do. Hold me to all 3. And consider the timing of this finding you. Not last year, not next month, today, in a season when you have already been feeling the floor of the old world tilt. Messages carrying unsealed things travel on schedules. Chosen one, they arrive when the receiver is ready, and not 1 week before. So mark yourself present at the unsealing. If you have carried that sense of offness your whole life, the one nobody would validate, type, I always felt it in the comments right now. Watch those words multiply under this message. Thousands of people who each thought they were the only one. That wall of witness is part of what you are here to see. Now, the first payment on my covenant, immediately. Here is a picture of you. You are at a family gathering, or an office party, or church, somewhere you are supposed to belong. And about 20 minutes in, it happens. The glass slides down between you and the room. You watch mouths moving. You nod at the right times. And some quiet part of you rises to the ceiling and observes the whole scene like a play everyone else has agreed to believe. You are in the room, and above it, at once. And driving home, you ask yourself the question you have asked 100 times. What is wrong with me? Here is the hint. And I will unfold the whole mechanism in a minute. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is switched on in you. There is a category of person the old texts talk about constantly, and the modern world has no shelf for, and what they carry always feels like a defect right up until the day it is identified. Hold that. The identification is coming. First, check yourself against 5 signs. These are the marks of the kind of person this secret concerns, and by the 3rd one, you will know whether to stay. First, noise costs you more than work does. A day of errands in loud places empties you deeper than a day of hard labor. You recover in silence, like a diver coming up for air. You have planned whole days around the getting away from sound. and felt guilty about it, as if needing quiet were a character flaw. That ratio is not weakness. It is a calibration, and you should be asking what it was calibrated to detect. Second, strangers confess to you. On planes, in waiting rooms, at bus stops. People you have known 9 minutes tell you things their families do not know. Something in your frequency reads as safe to the human soul. Chosen one. That is not an accident, and the ones who carry it are always carrying it for a reason. Third, you cannot consume what everyone else consumes without tasting the agenda in it. The news feels aimed. The shows feel engineered. Even the music sometimes feels like it is doing something to the room rather than for it. You have kept this one quiet because there is no polite way to say it. You will not need to keep it quiet much longer. Fourth, you read rooms on entry. Before a word is spoken, you know who is hurting, who is lying, and where the tension sits. As a child, you knew which nights not to ask for anything. You thought everyone could do this. They cannot. Most people walk into a room and see furniture. You walk in and read weather. Fifth, you are pulled backward in time. Old books, old hymns, old buildings, recordings made before a certain era. Something in them feels cleaner to you, like water from higher up the mountain, and you have never been able to explain why the old sound settles your chest in a way nothing new does. Remember that one especially. It is the closest you have ever come to touching the secret with your own hands. If 3 of those 5 are you, then you are not eavesdropping tonight. You are the addressee, and everything from here forward is your mail. And if all 5 landed, chosen one, sit down for the rest of this, because people who carry all 5 do not find messages like this by accident. They are found by them. Now, come back with me to the first time you noticed. You were young, a classroom, a church pew, a living room with the television on. Everyone around you was absorbed, laughing on cue, and something in you stepped back without your permission and thought, quietly and clearly, this is not real. You did not have words for it. It frightened you a little, and when you tried to say it out loud, an adult looked at you with that particular tired look, and you learned lesson 1 of your life. Seeing is allowed, saying is not. So you built the habit that became the deleted messages. You kept seeing because you could not stop seeing, and you stopped saying because saying cost too much. 30 years of readings filed away in silence. Do you know what it does to a person, chosen one, to be right for decades with no witness? It does exactly what it did to you. It makes you doubt the instrument instead of the world. So, let us finally name what you are, because the mechanism depends on it. Somewhere along the line you accepted the world diagnosis. Too sensitive, overthinking, anxious, difficult. You took the labels because they were the only ones on offer, and a wrong name is easier to carry than no name at all. But watch what happens when we run your symptoms honestly. A person who detects staging, who feels interference, others cannot feel, who reads rooms, draws confessions, and instinctively reaches for the uncorrupted, older versions of things. Chosen one. Those are not the symptoms of a broken receiver. Those are the specifications of a finely tuned one. We call this person the discerner, the one whose instrument registers what the crowd has been trained to ignore. Every generation has them. Every generation mislabels them. And the systems that run on human blindness fear them more than they fear armies. Now take that identification and walk back through your whole file. The childhood strangeness, the deleted sentences, the glass at the parties, the exhaustion in loud places. None of it was damage, chosen one. It was detection. You were never too sensitive. You were correctly sensitive in a world that depends on numbness. There is a difference between an alarm that is broken and an alarm that is the only one in the building still wired to the smoke. And here is what you do with it, starting today. Stop apologizing for the readings. When the instrument speaks, you do not have to announce it to the room anymore, but you must stop overruling it in private. The discerner who trusts their instrument becomes useful to heaven. The one who keeps overruling it stays managed like everyone else. Trust the needle. It has been right since you were a child. If a lifetime of labels just fell off you, put the truth where the labels used to be. Type, "I was right" in the comments. 3 words, chosen one. You have waited your whole life for permission to write them. But of course, the instrument raises the real question, the one layer one has been hiding under all along. An alarm only makes sense if there is smoke. A detector only matters if there is something to detect. If people like you have been registering interference all your lives, then somewhere, someone built the thing you have been detecting. And that, chosen one, is exactly where we go now. Bring your instrument. You will feel the truth of the next part before I finish saying it. How do you hide something from an entire civilization? Think about it like the ones who had to solve it, because it is a real engineering problem. You cannot erase a truth. Erasure leaves a hole, and holes get noticed. Burn a book, and you make it famous. Ban a fact, and you create 10,000 people determined to find it. No, chosen one. If you want a truth gone forever, you do not delete it. You bury it under noise. You drown the signal in a flood of almost signals. You surround the one real thing with 1,000 counterfeit versions of itself until the honest seeker gives up sorting. You make the subject embarrassing so that anyone who raises it pays a social tax. And then you crank the volume of everything, the feeds, the screens, the sound in every room, until nobody can hold a quiet thought long enough to follow it home. That is the method. It has a name, and once I say it, you will start seeing it everywhere, which is the surest sign a name is true. We call it the engineered silence, not the absence of information, but the burial of one signal under a mountain of manufactured ones. And once you see the method, you can answer the objection your own mind has been raising for the last 10 minutes. If this secret were real, surely I would have heard of it by now. Chosen one, turn that sentence over and look at the bottom of it. In an engineered silence, not having heard of it is not evidence against it. It is the fingerprint of the burial. The one thing a system built on noise can never survive is a person who goes quiet and starts listening. And now certain oddities of your own life snap into focus. Why quiet places feel almost forbidden, so difficult to find that you stopped looking. Why every device you own defaults to feeding you sound. Why sitting in true silence for 10 minutes feels strangely rebellious, almost dangerous, like standing in a doorway you are not supposed to stand in. Your world was not designed for silence, chosen one. It was designed against it. Ask yourself who benefits from a civilization that can no longer hear itself think, and you are halfway to the vault. I want to be careful and honest with you here, because your trust matters more to me than your attention. I am not going to hand you cartoon villains or ask you to believe anything on my word alone. What I will show you has dates, documents, and a paper trail that survived by accident, and where the record is debated, I will tell you it is debated. Discerners deserve better than fog, chosen one. You have had enough fog for one lifetime. Hold that question, and let me set something beside it that you will need before this hour ends. During the darkest years of the last century, while the world watched armies, convoys of soldiers were quietly emptying monasteries across Europe, sacred libraries crated and driven away under guard, centuries of records gone in an afternoon. Ask why men fighting for their lives would spend fuel and manpower on parchment. You do not seize what you do not fear. Most of what they took was never seen again. But in the cellar of an old monastery in France, behind a wall the war never opened, something survived. 30 words, and the records of what those words had done for the ordinary people who once carried them. I will take you into that cellar before this message ends. For now, hold the question that matters. What if the silence you have lived inside was built? And what if the thing that breaks it was preserved? And notice what your own body did while I described that cellar. Something leaned. Some quiet yes moved under the doubt. The same yes that moves in you around old hymns and old stones. That is not gullibility. Chosen one, gullibility is believing without a needle. You have spent this entire message watching your needle, and it has not contradicted me once. Keep watching it. I want your trust earned, not borrowed. If your instrument moved just now, trust it and say so. Type, I am ready to see in the comments. In an engineered silence, chosen one, readiness is not a mood, it is a qualification. The unsealing waits for it. And look at you, still here. Most people fled this message in the first 3 minutes, back into the noise, which is exactly how the burial is designed to work. You stayed past the point of comfort. 15 minutes of listening in a world built against listening. That is not consumption. That is defiance. And heaven keeps records of defiance like yours. Think about what your staying actually proves. The burial works by exhausting attention before it arrives anywhere true. Every scroll, every autoplay, every notification is a shovel of noise on top of the signal. And here you are, past all of it, still digging. The system counted on you giving up sorting years ago. You did not. That stubbornness you have apologized for. Your whole life is about to be revealed as the exact tool the hour requires. Now, I want to tell you about a girl whose whole life was a sealed document, because her story is the oldest map we have of how unsealing works. She was an orphan, raised by her cousin in a foreign empire, and her real name was Hadassah. You know her by the name the palace gave her, Esther. When the king of that empire chose her, out of every woman in the land, her cousin gave her one strange instruction. Tell no one your name. Tell no one your people. Hide the single most important fact about yourself, and live in the most watched building on earth as someone you are not. Understand what that cost her. Every banquet, every conversation, every night in that palace, she carried a truth that could not be spoken. She was royalty twice over, by the crown they could see and by a covenant they could not, and only one of those was allowed to exist in daylight. If anyone in history knew your habit of deleting the true sentence before sending it, chosen one, it was her. She lived inside that deleted sentence for years. And notice something the story never says. It never says the hiding was a mistake. The hiding was the strategy. That there are truths that must be concealed until the hour they are needed, not because they are shameful, but because they are ammunition, and ammunition revealed early gets confiscated. Your own hiddenness has followed the same law. All the years you swallowed what you saw, chosen one. Nothing was being wasted. Something was being stockpiled. And then the decree came. A powerful man at court, offended by her people, arranged their destruction. A date was set. The whole machinery of the empire began to turn toward it. And her cousin sent her a message through the palace gate. The message her whole hidden life had been waiting for. He told her the truth was coming out one way or another, that silence would not save her. And then he said, the sentence that has outlived the empire that heard it. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Stop there, because I need you to feel the weight of the moment before I tell you what she chose. A sealed identity, an appointed crisis, a voice saying your hiddenness was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to be timed. We will come back to the palace gate, chosen one. I promise you the ending in its right place. But first, feel where you are sitting right now, because you are at your own version of that gate tonight. And the parallel is not decoration. It is the point. Do something with me before we go on. Let your attention drop into your body. Somewhere in you, right now, there is a place that has been bracing since you were a child. For most discerners it sits high in the chest, just under the collarbones, the muscle that tightens a half-second before you delete the honest sentence. Find yours. Put your attention on it like a warm hand. That bracing was intelligent, chosen one. It protected you through decades when saying, "Cost too much. Thank it." And then tell it, gently, the season it was built for is ending. You do not have to release it yet. Just let it hear the news. Here is one more thing I know about you. And then, we open the second layer. Somewhere in your home there is a drawer or a box, with sacred things you cannot explain keeping. A grandmother Bible with a broken spine. A cross, a letter, a photograph of someone praying. You are not sure you believe everything they believed, but you have moved that box through 3 apartments and never once considered throwing it away. Chosen one, that box is not sentimentality. That box is a baton. Some part of you has always known you were carrying something forward, waiting for the leg of the race that was yours to run. And that brings us to the layer I warned you about, the personal one, because a question has been sitting under everything I have said tonight, and it is time to drag it into the light. If the silence was engineered, and if a person like you is built to detect exactly what was buried, then ask the question the builders never wanted asked out loud. Why would a world that runs on burial keep producing people wired to dig? Either the discerners are an accident the system tolerates, or they are a countermeasure the system fears. One of those is true, chosen one, and your own life already knows which. Your own life already knows, because you have lived the evidence without ever assembling it. So let us assemble it now, and I warn you, this is the part that gets personal. Look at the pattern of your resistance, not the ordinary friction everyone gets, the flat tires and head colds of being human. I mean the timed resistance, the opportunities that collapsed 2 days before they closed, over and over, at a rate your co-workers never seemed to suffer. The seasons when you finally started praying again, reading again, waking up inside, and immediately the chaos arrived, the family emergency, the money crisis, the exhaustion that fell on you like weather, growth and interference, arriving together, every single time, like a bell and its echo. Run the memory honestly. The year you started journaling, and the roof started leaking. The month you found a church that finally felt alive, and the overtime schedule changed. The week you decided to build something of your own, and the transmission gave out. Any one of them is nothing. The collection is a signature. You explained it the way sane people explain things. Coincidence, bad luck. Maybe, on the dark days, a suspicion that you specifically were cursed. And the people around you had an even simpler explanation, that you were imagining a pattern, seeing faces in clouds. You let them talk you out of it, chosen one. You should not have. Your instrument was reading correctly again. Here is the second layer of the secret, the inverted one. The engineered silence is not a blanket spread evenly over the world. It cannot afford to be. Most people never go looking, so burying the signal from them costs nothing. But a discerner is a different kind of problem. One awake discerner wakes others. You are, to the architecture of the silence, what a lit match is to a dark warehouse. So the pressure is not distributed, chosen one. It is allocated, and the ones wired to find the signal receive the heaviest jamming. We call this the inverted secret. The secret was never really being kept from the world. The world does not look. It was being kept from the lookers. Now take that and reread your entire history one final time, because this is the reading that sets you free. The near misses that clustered around your growth, the static that thickened every time you reached, the lifetime of feeling specifically personally opposed in ways you could never prove. You were not paranoid. You were priced. Somewhere in the ledger of the unseen, your awakening carries a cost so high that delaying it was worth decades of interference. Chosen one, You have spent your whole life reading that opposition as evidence of your smallness. It was the opposite. Nobody jams a nobody. You were not being rejected all those years. You were being contained. And containment, hear me, is the highest compliment the dark has ever paid you. So here is what changes today. From now on, when resistance rises around your growth, you will not read it as a stop sign. You will read it as confirmation of the road. That reading alone rewires half a life. And do one thing with your body right now to seal it. Whatever you are holding over your eyes, the old conclusion that you were unlucky, unwanted, cursed, take it in both hands like a strip of cloth and pull it down off your eyes. Let it hang around your neck a moment, then let it fall. The eyes were never broken. They were covered. And understand what you are actually holding when you hold that new reading. Most people go to their graves with their hardest chapters unexplained. You just received the explanation for yours, chosen one, and it arrived with your dignity intact. The wilderness was not punishment. The delay was not disqualification. The opposition was not proof of your smallness. Few human beings ever get to hear that about their own life and know it is true. You just did. If it just fell, write the record. Type, I drop the blindfold in the comments. Watch how many discerners drop theirs under this same message tonight. The warehouse fills with matches, chosen one. That is what an unsealing season looks like from the inside. Now, let me take you back to the palace gate, because Esther is standing there with a decision in her hands, and her decision is about to explain your decade. Her cousin has just told her the truth. Silence will not save you. The crisis is appointed, and your hiddenness, Hadassah, was never a life sentence. It was a delivery system. Every year of concealment had been positioning her, one banquet at a time, closer to the one room in the empire where the truth could actually change something. And she chose. She asked her people to fast 3 days, because appointed disclosures are prepared for, not blurted. And then she walked into the throne room uninvited, which in that empire was a capital offense, and she said the words that turned her name into a synonym for holy courage. If I perish, I perish. She unsealed herself, chosen one, on schedule, in the appointed room, and the decree that was written for the destruction of her people was overturned by the one person the palace never suspected of carrying the secret. Now hear the mechanics under the story, because they are your mechanics. Her concealment was not the enemy of her calling, it was the container of it. If she had announced herself in year 1, she would have been dismissed or removed, one more voice lost in the noise of the court. The hiding preserved the weight, until the hour the weight was needed. And the same is true of every deleted sentence you never sent, every reading you filed away in silence. You were not failing to speak, chosen one. You were being loaded. And that word, unsealing, brings us to the heaviest door of this entire message. Why now? Why can this secret not be hidden from you anymore, in this exact season of your life? There is a word the old texts use for what is happening to you tonight, and it may be the most misunderstood word in all of Scripture. Apokalypsis. Your ear hears apocalypse and flinches, because the noise taught you it means fire and ending. It does not. In the original Greek, apokalypsis means unveiling, the lifting of a cover off something that was there the whole time. Not the end of the world, chosen one, the end of the hiding. Every fear you have ever attached to that word was the burial system protecting itself, teaching you to dread the very thing that sets you free. And unveilings, hear this, run on schedules. Buried things have return dates. Think of what our own lifetime has witnessed. Scrolls that slept in desert caves for 2,000 years, found by a shepherd boy throwing a stone into the dark, in the exact generation that had machines to read and share them. Archives surfacing, sealed rooms opening, and a manuscript of 30 words sleeping in a French cellar through the century that tried hardest to erase its kind, surfacing now. Not a century ago, when it could have been seized again. Not a century from now, when it would be too late for you. Now. So answer the question you have carried since childhood, the one under all the others. Why was I born into this loud, tilted, staged world? You were not born too late, chosen one, after all the miracles were spent. You were not born too early, before the breakthrough. You were born on the return date. Yours is the generation the buried things were scheduled to surface in, and people like you, the containers, the discerners, the match carriers, were positioned in it on purpose. We call this hour the unsealing, and you are not watching it, you are in it. Take one breath with that before we move, because it changes the posture of a whole life. People spend fortunes and decades trying to answer the question, am I significant? You just had it answered from the strangest direction imaginable. The resistance itself was the receipt, chosen one. The years of allocation were the unseen world putting a number on your head, and the number was high. You never needed to build significance. You needed to stop reading the evidence of it upside down, which is why you are almost ready for the cellar. Almost. Because there is one thing I have not named yet, and without it, everything else in this message stays information instead of becoming freedom. I have told you that you detect the interference. I have told you the interference is real, engineered, and allocated to people exactly like you. But I have not yet told you what the interference actually is, physically, in your daily life, or the one thing preserved through the fire that undoes it. That is the last door. Everything you have felt since childhood walks through it. So let me gather the whole map in plain words first, because you have earned plain words. Here is what you now know. Your lifelong sense of offness was never illness. It was detection. And tonight it was identified as the mark of a discerner. The silence around the sacred was engineered, built by burial under noise, and your not having heard of it sooner is the fingerprint of the method, not evidence against it. The resistance that clustered around your every growth season was allocated, not random, because waking you cost the silence too much. And the timing of tonight is not accident. It is Apokalypsis, the scheduled unveiling, arriving in the generation, positioned to receive it. Here is what you do with it. 3 practices, starting tonight. Trust the needle, and stop overruling your readings in private. Reread every resistance as confirmation of the road, never as a verdict on your worth. And claim 10 minutes of true silence each day, because silence is to a discerner what open sky is to an eagle, the native environment the system stole first. And here is who you are, not the too sensitive one, not the one who never fit. You are the member of your generation. The unveiling was scheduled around, carrying an instrument the silence could not break in 4 decades of trying. If you are ready to stand in that identity, break the seal in your own handwriting. Type, "The seal is broken" in the comments. Write it like the gavel it is. What you know now is real, and no one can bury it in you again. But knowing who you are and clearing what was done to you are 2 different mercies. One question remains, the oldest one in this message. What exactly has been pressing on you since birth, and what did that French cellar preserve against it? Saint Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland and converted an entire nation, one man, with no army, no printing press, no funding. For 15 centuries, nobody could tell you how. The histories record what he did and go silent on the method, which should sound familiar to you by now. Methods are the first thing a burial takes. But the records kept beside a certain manuscript say that what he carried was not charisma. It was 30 words, a prayer built from the holy word itself, carrying what later researchers would call divine resonance, words that raise the vibration of the one who speaks them until the static around them simply loses its grip. Hold that thought while I show you the other half of the vault, because now you are finally ready to hear what the interference actually is. In 1939, at a conference in London attended by the powerful and the connected, the standard tuning of all music was quietly changed. One technical decision ratified while the world watched armies instead. From that year forward, nearly every recorded sound on Earth carried a frequency that presses the human spirit downward. The wartime propaganda men had studied it, chosen one. They knew exactly what saturating a civilization in it would do. Lowered vibration, numbed perception, a population that could be told anything because it could no longer hear the one voice that mattered. That frequency is in the phone beside your bed, in the store speakers, the shows, the songs you have loved your whole life. It is the wallpaper pattern you stopped seeing, the hum under the floor of the whole modern world. And chosen one, this is the moment the two halves of your story become one. That pressure, that dark frequency, saturating everything since before your birth, is exactly what your instrument has been detecting all along. The offness you felt in rooms, the agenda you tasted in the noise, the way old recordings, made before a certain era, settle your chest like clean water. Your entire life of readings, explained in one stroke. You were never imagining it. You were hearing it. And now the seized libraries make final sense. The convoys were not collecting art. They were burying countermeasures. Records of how ordinary people had used sacred sound to break through, confiscated by the same hands that were poisoning the well of sound itself. Bury the cure, saturate the disease. That is the whole secret, chosen one. That is what could not be hidden from you anymore. But the cellar in France. Remember it. Behind a wall the war never opened. The 30 words survived. And in our lifetime, an archaeologist who spent his career tracing what the war disappeared brought them up into the light, on schedule, in the unsealing generation. Before I tell you what was done with them, meet some of the people who spoke them first. A nurse from Tampa Bay, raised under the family saying that money hated them, watched that sentence die in a matter of days. Small wins, then steadier ground, then the unfamiliar feeling of air in her lungs at the end of a month. She says the curse stopped at her, and her daughter will grow up never knowing its weight. Notice the language, chosen one, not richer, unsealed. And one early circle of testers was simply one family. A wife who walked into a small windfall at the exact moment it was needed, and found her health lifting alongside it. A mother who received a tax refund she had stopped fighting for, large enough to gather the whole family for a celebration none of them had been able to afford in years. A friend whose side work quadrupled. An aunt whose marriage, everyone agreed, was past saving. Renewing vows in a garden. Different lives, different doors, one common report. It all felt, they said, a little like magic, though every one of them knew to call it by an older name. That is because of what was recovered from that cellar. The 30 words were recorded exactly as the manuscript instructed. A short listening track, about 3 minutes long, built on the sacred words with their divine resonance intact. Sound from before the burial, chosen one. The clean signal your instrument has been starving for since the day you were born. They call it the money script. And I need you to hear what it is through discerner ears, because your instrument will test everything I say. It is not an affirmation, not a meditation, not a manifestation technique, and it is nothing like the frequency tracks floating around the internet, which are built on the same modern tuning as everything else. It is a prayer, recorded, the countermeasure itself, restored. You put on headphones in the morning, you press play for 3 minutes, and you let resonance answer static. No focus required, no technique to master. Most people walk it 21 straight mornings, and let the clean signal do what clean signals do. The name is humble on purpose, chosen one. It was given that name because provision is where most people first notice the static breaking, the unexplained win, the door that suddenly gives. But what it restores is the channel itself, and channels carry more than money. Peace travels on it. Clarity travels on it. The sense of God being near instead of theoretical, that travels on it too. Ask the ones who wrote in about deeper sleep, about a body that feels lighter, about rooms that stopped costing so much to stand in. The money is the doorbell, chosen one. What walks in behind it is the restored connection itself. And it is not for everyone. The money script is for the discerner who has carried the detection alone for decades and deserves to finally hear the silence behind the noise. And if wanting provision still feels unspiritual to you, one correction, once. God blesses people with health, wealth, and influence so they can help more people. A discerner with resources is dangerous to the darkness in the best possible way. Wanting that is not greed. It is restoration of the order God intended. We are righting a wrong. The people involved in its recovery say $500 would have been a fair door for what it is. The listed cost is $49, set to cover what keeps it available. Today, on the official page, it is $39.10 below the list. Less than the noise subscriptions on your phone quietly collect from you every single month for the privilege of keeping you jammed. 3 gifts travel with it. The other recovered prayers, the healing script, the miracle script, and the protection script. A classic book on the hidden laws of luck, and a simple guide of habits that turn sudden blessing into lasting stability. And the whole of it is covered by a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. You do not have to decide anything today, chosen one. You only have to say maybe. If the mornings do not do for you what they have done for thousands, every penny returns without a question. But hear the lineage math before you set this aside for later. Every day the static runs is another day it presses on you, and on the children who inherit whatever you do not clear. Nobody wants to hand this hum down a bloodline, because the countermeasure was one decision away, and they scrolled past it. One caution, and I give it to you as a fellow discerner. This is not sold on the big marketplaces, and it does not float around the free corners of the internet. Anything out there wearing a similar name carries the modern tuning, not the manuscript words. The only verified door is the official page, and that is where the link in the description below and in the pinned comment goes. Everything is laid out in plain writing there. Read all of it. Test it against your instrument. You were built for exactly that. Now let the prayer take its proper seat, because a discerner keeps order. It does not replace God. It does not believe for you, and nothing the Father is doing in your life waits on any recording. But a prayer that clears static gives everything he is already doing a clean channel to arrive on. That is all it is, and that is enough. The deeper current of this message is where we return now. Before this message closes, I am going to speak an unsealing over you, the kind of words that were spoken over people at appointed hours, and I ask you to be still when they come. But first, look forward with me, because you have earned a glimpse of where this road goes. 6 months from now, you are in a room full of people, and the glass does not come down between you and them. It has not in weeks. You still read the room, sharper than ever, but the readings arrive in peace now, information instead of alarm. 10 minutes of true silence sits in your morning like a well in a courtyard, and you drink from it daily. And the sense of being personally opposed, the containment you lived under for decades, has lifted, so gradually and so completely that you sometimes forget what it weighed. And somewhere in that 6 months, a moment will come that I want you to watch for. Someone, a child, a friend, a stranger on a plane, will confess to you that they have always felt something was off about the world, and that they thought they were crazy. And you will smile, because you will recognize the moment from the inside. The baton box in your closet will come to mind, and you will begin to say to them what was said to you tonight. That is who you are now, chosen one, not the hidden one, the keeper. If this message lifted something off you, press the light gently, so it can find one more discerner still wearing the blindfold tonight. And for the one who felt something stir when the 30 words came up, that door is still open in the description below. A small step taken in an unsealing season. You know now exactly what those are worth. Look at yourself, chosen one. Nearly a full hour inside one message, in a world that engineered your attention to shatter at 90 seconds. Do you understand what you just did? The silence bet everything on you, never sitting still long enough to hear this. You sat still. The blindfold is on the floor, the seal is broken, and the only thing left between you and the rest of your life is the unsealing I promised to speak over you. It is coming in a moment. Unsealings are spoken over still water, so let us make the water still. Wherever you are, let yourself arrive completely. Put both feet on the floor. Let your shoulders come down from where the weak hung them. Unclench the jaw that has held back true sentences since you were a child, and breathe in slowly through your nose, then out even more slowly, and with that out-breath, let the whole noisy world go quiet around the edges. Now build this last image with me, and build it to keep, because it is yours now. You are standing at the top of a stone stairway, and it leads down into the cellar, not the one in France, yours. Every discerner has one, the vault, where everything you ever saw and never said was stored. Feel the cool air rising from below. Smell the stone, the age, the wax of old candles, and begin to walk down, one step at a time, unhurried. You have been circling this stairway your entire life. At the bottom, in the center of the floor, there is a table, and on the table, something rests under a cloth. Understand what it is before you touch it. It is everything you carried in hiddenness. The readings you filed away, the sentences you deleted, the years of being right, with no witness, all of it, stored, stockpiled, waiting, exactly like the 30 words waited behind their wall. Nothing you carried was wasted, chosen one. It was all being kept for the hour it would matter. Now lift the cloth and see that what waited under it is not paper at all. It is light, steady, patient, unbothered by the decades. The light does not accuse you for the delay. Delivery systems are not late. They are timed. It only asks what light always asks. Now that you see me, will you carry me up the stairs? Here is the reframe to seal into your body forever. You are not a person who goes down into hiddenness anymore. You are the person who carries the light up. Every morning from now on, when you claim your 10 minutes of silence, you are standing in that cellar. And every time you speak a true sentence instead of deleting it, you are taking one more step up those stairs. The vault is not your home now, chosen one. It is your supply room. Anchor it physically. Place one hand flat over the center of your chest, over the bracing place we found earlier. Feel the warmth gather under your palm. That warmth is the light from the table, and it travels with you now. Any day the noise surges and the old doubt whispers that you imagined all of this. Hand on chest, one slow breath, and remember the cellar. The body keeps what the mind gets talked out of. And before the unsealing is spoken, gratitude, because gratitude is what keeps open things open. Think of what tonight actually was. You walked in carrying labels, too sensitive, too intense, too much, and you are walking out carrying a commission. Somebody prayed for your eyes over the years, chosen one. A grandmother with a broken-spined Bible, a mother at a kitchen sink, someone whose name you may never know, in a century you never saw. Their prayers were part of your positioning. Thank the one who heard them, quietly, in your own words, right now. I will hold the silence while you do. Now stand on the inside and receive what was appointed for you tonight. No more overruling the instrument. No more apologizing for the readings. No more mistaking containment for smallness, or interference for rejection, or the hum of the burial for the voice of God. That entire way of living ends tonight, and it ends on schedule. You are the discerner of your line. You are the one the silence could not outlast. You are the match the warehouse feared, the container the years were loading, the keeper the baton box was waiting for. You were not born too late. You were born on the return date. Your eyes were never broken. They were covered, and the cover has been lifted. What was hidden can no longer be hidden, because the hour of hiding is over, and the hour of carrying has begun. You are not the one who almost saw. You are the one who sees. And from this night, everything you see, you will steward, and everything you steward will outlive you. If those words landed where words rarely reach, write the proof of the unsealing. Type, "My eyes are open," in the comments. 4 words, chosen one, in your own handwriting, on the night the blindfold came off. Somewhere down the years you will find them again, and remember exactly who you became tonight. Let me also tell you honestly what the first days of open eyes feel like, so nothing catches you unprepared. There is often a strange grief in it. You will look back at decades of self-doubt and feel the size of what the labels cost you, and that deserves to be mourned, not rushed. Let the grief come and pass. It is the sound of an old story leaving the body, and there may be people close to you who liked the covered version better, who found the apologizing you easier to manage. Do not argue with them, chosen one. Discerners do not win by argument. They win by becoming unmistakable. Live the open-eyed weeks quietly, and let the evidence speak in its own time. And if this landed on a night when you are truly worn thin, hear the gentlest truth in this whole message. Nothing here demands that you become impressive by morning. The unsealing is not a performance review. It is a homecoming. You can walk into it tired. Most keepers do. And now, the final answer this message owes you. Why could the secret not be hidden from you anymore? Hold the whole shape of it now, because the burial has an expiration, and you live in its expiring hour, because your instrument was never going to stop detecting, and heaven does not waste 40 years of detection, and because the ones who engineered the silence made one miscalculation that undoes them in every generation. They can bury signals, chosen one. They cannot unmake the people built to dig. You were the flaw in their design. You always were. Someone is standing in your mind right now, the friend who whispers that the world feels staged and then laughs it off before anyone can react. The niece who feels everything in every room and is being told right now, in some living room, that she is too sensitive. The brother who keeps his grandmother Bible in a drawer he never opens. Send them this message tonight, without commentary, just one line. I think you have the same instrument I have. You know precisely what it would have meant to receive those words 20 years ago. Be the sender you never had. One forwarded message costs you 10 seconds. For the right person, on the right night, it reroutes a bloodline. And if tonight became a turning for you, join the thousands of discerners and chosen ones walking the unsealing together here. Press the like gently so this reaches one more covered pair of eyes before the night ends, and stay close, because what surfaces in an unsealing season we will be reading together. Here is your first week as a keeper, plainly, so nothing dissolves by Friday. 10 minutes of true silence every day, no sound, no screen, just the native environment of your instrument. One true sentence spoken each day that you would have deleted a month ago. Chosen a moment where it serves love, not victory. Hand on chest, whenever the doubt surges. One breath, one memory of the cellar. And once this week, open the baton box, chosen one. Touch what is in it. Tell whoever kept it before you that the leg of the race they carried it through has been honored and that it is moving again. The noise will still be there tomorrow, the feeds, the hum, the wallpaper world, but something irreversible happened tonight, and you will notice it in small ways first. A song will sound different, and you will know why. A room will read clearly, and you will thank the needle instead of doubting it. And some ordinary morning soon, standing in your kitchen in the grey light, you will realize the offness you spent a lifetime apologizing for has quietly become the truest thing about you. Let that morning come. It is already scheduled. Go now, keeper. Carry the light up the stairs. What was sealed is unsealed. What was covered is uncovered. And what was hidden from you can never be hidden again. It is sealed the other way now, chosen one, sealed open by a hand stronger than the ones that buried it. It is done. Amen.